Thursday night, 7 o'clock, the Garnet and Old Show. No inside info, no contacts, no problem. I am Ryan, Big Papa Ironclad East, and that is Vincent back from his cruise and hopefully pretty much back from his post cruise cold that he got. Vince, how are you, my friend? You on the mend?
I am on the mend. Today is really the day, like in the last 4 or 5 hours, Ryan, I've started to feel like myself a little bit.
Yeah, I think
I
it's the
took,
show.
yeah, I took the notorious COVID test about
Hmm.
2 or 3 days ago. I was negative. And so it was really, some kind of flu, probably. But I was in a Facebook group for the actual cruise itself. You go on these cruises now, there's actually a Facebook group for the actual dates of the cruise that you're on, and people can communicate. Usually it's a bunch of nonsense. Um, but within about 24 hours of everybody being off the ship, it was just, hey, is anybody feeling bad right now? I caught this on the last day. So no one else in my family got it.
Nice.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been interesting, and it was worth every sniffle
Hmm.
and worth every headache and every sore throat that I got. I want to talk more about it later in the show and give you
Yeah.
kind of how it all wrapped up with the ducks and stuff. But before we get to everything, I want to make sure that we always shout out our buddy Captain John Black with Captain Black's Fishing out of Panama City Beach, Florida. Captain John Black is uh, Captain Extraordinaire, Brian. He is maybe we should start calling him Admiral Black,
I like it.
because he is dominating in the charter fishing game. And if you're looking for an opportunity to go charter fishing, give him a call, if you're out that way. I fully intended to do that this summer. I may or may not get around to doing that, but Captain John Black is your man. He's a Nolan,
Hmm.
and you should go fishing with him. See what that's all about. Thank you, John Black.
Now, Vince, at the time, I did not say it because I knew you were feeling pretty rough, but I was definitely thinking it. I was thinking better getting sick on the last day than on day two of a 7 day cruise.
Oh, there's no
Uh,
doubt.
yeah, you know, Papa East rewound the clock back to the epic fail cruise, and it brought back flashback of PTSD. But I do have some before we get into some Florida State stuff. It's so cool stuff. You ever get just the itch to try new workflows?
Do I
Like,
get the itch to try new workflows?
yeah, like
Um,
on your devices, your
oh
rotation, your
yeah,
stack.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So I've been for the last week, even on last week's show, on all my devices, Mac, iOS, and iPad, I have been driving as my default browser, Microsoft Edge.
Hmm, that's
Um,
unfortunate.
well, so the reason behind it is, Vince, they have a toggle, a one click button toggle for work and personal profile,
Hmm.
completely separate extensions, bookmarks, history, everything's separate.
Hmm.
And so I've been doing a lot of stuff at work, and it got kind of cumbersome having. Before I was essentially driving Safari as my primary personal driver, and then using like Chrome for my work profile. But I gave it a shot, and Vince, I'm not gonna lie, it loads sites much better than Safari, with less issues. And then uh, part of that, Vince, I've also switched instead of Apple Mail. I've been using Outlook with my work and personal Gmail and iCloud email in Outlook, and it actually loads my emails faster and brings them in quicker. In real time tests, I did actual tests where I sent myself test mails, um,
Yep.
and then finishing it off with Copilot, connecting all the dots because obviously it's well connected. I wanted an AI. The whole purpose of this, Vince, what drove this need to change was I wanted a fully integrated AI bot that is in every app that I'm in, not as a side thing I'm copying and pasting. And it's been working great. I was hesitant. I thought I would delete all this stuff within a day or two after frustrations, but it's been really nice and working really well. And Vince, the last thing I'll say, and we'll get into Florida State, I promise. So you know how when we're on the road and we're doing our tailgates, which we will be soon, um, it forces you from iOS devices to use Safari only. and you try to use Chrome and it'll be like, nah, can't do it. But then when you're at home, it forces you to use like a non-Safari browser, right?
Right.
Edge works on both iOS, iPad, and Mac across the board on our streaming platform here, which means
Oh,
everything's working all together from all devices.
well, that part of it, that last little part of it, is probably the thing that is excited me the most of all the things you've said, because I've been around the block on all these Microsoft products for, off and on. Oh, let me try Outlook on my phone, and let me try then, and it never takes, it never
Yeah,
sticks, because there's always something completely kludgy and clunky about it, and so it would take a
yeah,
lot to get me to start using Outlook actually on my phone,
yeah,
let alone a browser other
yeah.
than Safari.
And
So
and by the way, Vince, full support for iCloud passwords.
yeah, well, that's
So
important. That's where everything is.
our
So
friend Dennis would be very impressed with me right now.
yeah. Um, you know who else should be impressed is anybody that is watching the show right now that is wondering if we're going to do a goal tonight. We try to do a goal every week, and the goal, as usual, is 5 super chats,
Mm,
um, or 25 dollars. Kind of lost my train of thought there. I got the COVID haze there. But we are going to be doing that again tonight. You'll see the goals listed, or the goal listed, in the YouTube chat. For those of you that are in YouTube, chat away. This is what makes the show great, and it allows Ryan and I to kind of, I don't know, kind of sit back and listen to what the people are saying.
the people are the most important thing, Vince. And I will say this: it's been a very active week of Florida State news and content. We
It
actually
has
have a
been.
lot to talk about today, and we're going to get to it all. And you don't want to miss anything because I have a feeling, and things are really going to start cooking. In fact, Vince, your cruise episode last week was actually a pretty well received and well viewed episode, and we gained a lot of a good amount of followers from that show.
We
Yeah,
did.
it was nice.
We did. We can kind of tangentially talk about the cruise here, because like I talked about before, I gave away 50 of those ducks, and it had the QR code on it, and it pointed people toward the video. And there was a special video. As a matter of fact, we probably need to make that video public so the rest of the people can see it. But it basically was an introduction to the show, and an encouragement to watch Thursday night's show, and have people kind of tune in as I was live from the cruise ship. And thank you, Elon Musk. That worked pretty well, considering I had to get bumped out 2 or 3 times.
It's
But
incredible that what we can do
um,
from a cruise now.
but I went back and looked at, kind of watched it to see, if there was any, glitchiness or fuzziness or whatever, and most of it turned out pretty well. But the feedback I was getting from people on the ship, and I knew this because of the Facebook group I was in, was when they found the duck, they would not only, go and watch the video, because I think we had like 30 views of the video
Nice.
out of 50 ducks. That's pretty good.
That's a high
But I
return.
had, but I had people in the Facebook chat, the group, sending me pictures of themselves with the duck, and
Oh, cool.
thanking us, and also saying, things like, "Yeah, we're going to try to tune in. We don't know what we're doing Thursday night or whatever," but it was a lot of fun.
Nice. That's exciting. I'm very excited about it. I'm excited about a lot of things. This was it had a few low moments this past week, but overall, I think positive week for Florida State. Just in general, I mean, Vince, I think we would be remiss if we didn't start with the recruiting news, right? So,
Yeah, I think we have to start there, because I mean, that's really the buzz, is what's going on with recruiting in terms of visits and
yep.
commitments and possibilities.
Yeah, I would say overall, the one that I guess excited me the most, right? It was Tank Carrington
Hmm.
signing, just because I love that name. First of all, we know with
Hmm.
that name, and it all makes us feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. But that was a big one because it's a 4-star. And we're starting to crawl out of the doldrums of the recruiting rankings slowly but surely. And don't call me Shirley. Vince, that 4-star had to get you excited, especially on the defensive line. We're starting to eat.
Yeah, it's unfortunate and fortunate, yeah, that we can be excited about that now. But let's face it, like 2 or 3 months ago, we were there was a lot of consternation in the social media realm about the recruiting prowess of one Mike Norvell. And it's still, I mean, I think you would agree with me, Ryan. We're still kind of, the jury's still out.
Yeah, I
I
don't think
mean,
any of the you can't rule him out as a contributing factor of good momentum, but I think this has a lot more to do with assistant coaches and position coaches, the
well,
recent commitments. But it's
yeah,
the head
thankfully
coach is responsible for everything.
he is,
He
and
brought them in.
he brought them in, and everybody was talking about we need better recruiters, and so you can't on one hand, I mean you can because you can do whatever you want, but you can't on one hand say he's not the greatest recruiter, it's all of his assistants recruiting, but then 3 months ago say why aren't there assistants recruiting? Why is it that Mike Norvell has to do all the recruiting? So um, so I think we're starting to get some traction now with these with the new staff that's in place, and you're starting to see some of the groundwork being laid, some of the things shaking loose. And is it are they 5 stars? Are we hitting the elite of the elite
We might be soon.
now? Not yet, but I think the last I looked, we're up to top 15 on one of the sites if you care about that kind of thing. And I think history has shown that you should care to a certain degree about where your team falls in the recruiting rankings.
Hmm.
14 is not good enough, but if you think about the hill that we have to climb, speaking of climbing, uh, we are starting to dig our way out to a degree.
Yeah, and with all of the positive energy, we also have to factor in the negative. I think we were all excited that CJ, the decommit from Nebraska. I
Bruno,
felt like a lot of us felt like we were excited. He was a cornerback decommit from Nebraska, and you're thinking, okay, Nebraska coaching staff, Florida State. It's easy to connect the dots there, and listen, we don't know what the spend is. We don't know what the NIL budget right now for cornerbacks. We have a let's face it, we actually are pretty set in corner.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, so maybe it's a higher point of emphasis and need for the University of Florida than Florida State. And so, listen, if the young man, even if he has great relationships with the Florida State coaching staff, if he's going to get paid more, I mean, that's the reality of modern college football right now, like it or not. So,
Did he
to be
actually
honest,
commit to Florida?
yes.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Now, at the same time, Vince, you like to get them all, but I look at if you go, anyone just for entertainment purposes, go on Florida State's roster and sort by cornerback, you'll see a lot. There's a whole lot. It's like running back room. It's like, oh, right. Well, we got a lot of people here. And we don't want some of them to leave for greener pastures. So you got to
Right.
have playing time for these guys. Now,
Yeah.
uh, then you sprinkle in again, right? We get Brandon Bennett, 4-star, uh, announced his commitment to
Wide
FSU,
receiver.
which is great because I looked at his film and his play excites me, man. I mean, the highlights are there. He is I guess what you would call Vince pretty much not a day one starter necessarily, but he could compete immediately. Like frame wise, I think he's got it put together, and his film was impressive.
Wide receivers, as far as you know, worrying about wide receivers. I think a lot of people worried because of the staff that we brought in that we were basically chopping our we were chopping our own legs off, and we weren't going to get the best of the best in terms of wide receivers because of the type of scheme that Gus Malzahn is known for running. And so people were worried about that, and I saw some people say, um, prepare for the barrage of the 3 stars, right? And so, getting a 4-star wide receiver, and there are a lot of them. So, wide receiver is a position that I'm not particularly concerned about, um, especially in the state of Florida, especially in the Southeast. There's a lot of skill talent,
Yep.
and the logo is going to draw people in, regardless of what last season was. The logo is going to draw talented skill players in, and this is not a great way to say it, but I think they will be good enough.
Yeah.
They will be good enough until we start showing that momentum on the field, where maybe some more elite type wide receivers
Sure.
would start to want to put their
Yeah.
name to paper.
Now, 4-star ain't nothing. And what I'd like to say about, especially Gus Malzahn, is that his offense for the wide receivers, you don't have to be a 3-year development, man. Really have to learn this complicated, different, wide ranging offense. It's pretty much screen blocking, quick slants on an RPO look, and a whole
Scheming
lot
you
of
wide open.
and a whole lot of go routes with an RPO look, right? So the whole idea behind the offense is to have the players all the defense pay attention to Castellanos. He's got some legs, which is why I think it's crucial, Vince. Even though I like some of the other players in our quarterback room, I absolutely think it's crucial that he stay healthy, because I really believe that if you don't have an elite ball handler in the as a quarterback who can make something happen with his feet, I think Gus Malzahn's offense is kind of in trouble in most instances, which is why he tends to really do well when he has really athletic quarterbacks, and he tends to just do okay when he does it, because the threat of the quarterback run, in addition to the running back, of course. But the whole idea is you get people to kind of either show their hand, and hey, they're coming at the quarterback, and you hit them with that quick slant or tight end or quick screen. That's the idea of the offense. So as a wide receiver, you're looking at it, and sure, you might not feel like you're going to be a 1,200-yard receiver in this offense, but if you're a freshman, it's good, especially with Florida State's room right now. No proven, hey, guys that we know are going to be just amazing, aside from maybe one. You can come in and play pretty early in the system.
Yeah, and going back to the whole wide receiver thing in general, and I think there was a comment in here about just win and they will come. Even when Florida State was chucking the ball around, like crazy, it's still a struggle to get the elite of the elite. So yeah, win and they will come, but unless you're going to get to the point where you're going to have, a Jameis Winston on your roster, or someone of that caliber, that a wide receiver is going to look at that, the top of the line elite wide receiver is going to look at that and say, I want to play with that guy.
Yeah.
Then I think that 4 stars, yeah, sign me up. There's a ton of them, and we can make it work.
Yeah. Now I do want to call into question that phrase. I hear it all the time. Just win and they will come. Well, we went undefeated 2 years ago, and we didn't exactly have a top tier recruiting class following that. So now there's some circumstance around that. Generally, the time you would have gotten those commitments was during the season in which you were going undefeated following a 10-win season, because the following season you're coming off of that undefeated season, but if they start seeing you lose, decommitments, etc. But we really didn't see that surge. We didn't see the, oh my God, Florida State is on the path to potentially a playoff berth that year, should have been a playoff berth that year. We didn't see that surge that you would have expected.
Yeah. That's unfortunate, Ryan. You know why? I don't think we had the staff to be able to do it.
Right. And so you're hoping that now the saying might work, because you do have the staff that can recruit and just win and they'll come. But I think by itself, that saying is not good enough. You still have to have guys that can close on the recruiting trail.
You do. You have to have guys that can close, and you have to have the money backing these days, more so than ever, because the elite of the elite, there's no loyalty, right? There's no loyalty in general to logos or teams. Or I grew up, a fan of this team my whole life. My mom and dad went to this school, so that's where I'm going to go no matter what.
Yep.
It's and to a degree, money has always played a part in that, but it's so much more so now. Um, so you got to have the triumvirate of success, guys that can close, like a staff that can close, and the financial backing to make it to make that decision worth their while.
And I do want to remind people that you also have to take into account that, the guys we just got in the portal this previous offseason were in the number 6 transfer portal recruiting class that we got this past season. So anytime you see recruiting rankings and you say, well, that's not good enough, 16 for Florida State, whatever it is, just outside the top 10, it's not good enough. Yes, but if we are consistently in the top 10 in transfer portal and you combine that with a near top 10 class, I think you can survive with that. I think you can play with that. I think you can play with some of the best teams in the conference, especially in the ACC. Now, if you want to go to the Big Ten or the SEC and start playing, a lot of more competitive games more frequently, yeah, you might need to be in the top 10 on both, right? But right now, that's why the 2-10 was so egregious. That's why we were all so frustrated, is because we're in the ACC. We're playing, Duke and Wake Forest and Boston College, and these are teams that you should beat on a regular basis. And we struggled mightily last year. But I do want to.
There's no excuse, Ryan.
I do want to bring up.
It's never acceptable for
I
Florida
want
State
to
to be 2-10.
agreed, and Brett Taylor, agreed. I think it's an upgrade in the coaching staff. But are the players an 8-win roster? We won't know. We won't know if they're an 8+ win roster until we see the games. That I've had so many people, especially in the last month, come up to me, hey, you think Florida State's going to be good? What happened last year? And I just said, I have no idea what they're going to be this year. I think they'll be better than 2-10. But they could be 4 or 5 wins. They could be 9. I have no idea.
Yeah, being better than 2-10 is 3-9. That's better.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think that's what it's going to be. You and I have said this. We're not saving our predictions. But you have said, and I've said for a couple months now, that 7, 8, 9 wins seems reasonable with the type of talent that you have on the roster, and at least from historically the types of success that the staff members have had at their previous stops.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about quarterback, Vince.
So quarterback, and everybody's been frustrated about that, and rightly so. Name a quarterback, Ryan, that Mike Norvell has recruited out of high school that's worked out here.
Well, I can't even name one that's worked out after transferring after not working out here.
So,
double
jeopardy.
There's
I declare bankruptcy. Bankruptcy in the quarterback room, which I don't think we have currently. I think the room itself is, I would call it stable. Probably.
I would say it's league average. Like, it's probably very similar to a lot of teams out there.
Yeah, depending on how Castellanos works out, this could be an above average room. But going forward, above average, it's a well-known fact that if you want to do anything of significance in terms of playoffs and championships, you have to have a quarterback that is, a plus player. And, we just, Jordan Travis was that. There's no doubt about it. Plus player.
He didn't recruit him?
We didn't recruit him. And, every time we thought Luke was going to be that. And unfortunately, with the change in staff, his family, he himself, his family didn't believe that it was the best fit for him. It's probably true, but we're never going to see that come to fruition, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens here. But it seems like everyone that they have targeted, or you've heard about them targeting, has kind of just fizzled out. Who was the 5-star from
Yeah.
Houston? I can't
Yeah.
remember the
I
guy's
forget the
name
name.
even.
Yeah.
Just
He's
a
he
flash
would
in
have
the
been a
pan.
perfect fit for the offense.
And I don't, no inside info. It seems to me like Florida State wasn't going to. I think we talked about it last week. Florida State wasn't going to back up the Brinks truck for a freshman, a true freshman. Um,
Henderson.
yeah, and they just weren't going to do that. That is not a smart play of your money, unless you have like a no miss prospect, in which those are hard to come by.
Yeah, I'd rather spend the
Um,
money on a portal guy that's really good
so,
somewhere else. Yeah.
and then the Duckworth kid was looking like that was a possibility, and then that didn't work out. I think he's choosing between South Carolina and I can't remember who the other team is. Um,
Gotta
but
look
it's
at that
looking,
Beamer, man.
yeah, but it's looking like Jaden O'Neal may come to fruition, and he's currently committed to Oklahoma and has been for a while. But it's been known for a while that he probably wasn't going to stick with that. So
It
we'll
is
see what
known.
happens. Um, they they got to get better, and I don't know whether it's Mike Norvell or it's Tokars or it's the combination of the two, or it's the combination of that plus quarterbacks being really unsure of what this whole thing is going to look like. But there's not a lot of love from the
Sure.
elite quarterbacks that are available as far as coming to play for the Garnet Eagle.
Yeah, you have to imagine though, Vince, that this kind of season specifically, forget the Alabama game, win or lose, no one will be surprised if we lose that game, and the players in the roster won't be devastated if we lose to Alabama. They'll be like, okay, if you win to Alabama, you'll be on top of the mountain. You'll be so excited. But if you lose, as a player, a competitive player, I would go into that game like, I think we can compete. I think we can win. But then you lose that game, you kind of be like, we kind of, that was a likely outcome. And then you lock in for the ACC schedule. That's the idea. But this specific situation really sets up for the scenario in which Thomas Castellanos plays well, and halfway through the season we get a quarterback committed because of how well he's playing in this offense, and a similar mold to Castellanos signs to Florida State. I could see that as the most likely scenario of us getting a really, really talented upper echelon mobile quarterback is if that's the biggest if, a proof of concept in this offense, because Gus has had some big name players
Sure.
play under him, and so it's only a matter of time. No, people might not love. I believe what Gus's final season, Bo Nix was still at Auburn when he was there, and Bo ended up. I mean, hey, say what you will about
Yeah.
him, he got drafted. All
Yeah.
right, and even some of the quarterbacks he had at UCF who had no business putting up the numbers they did, based on pure talent, did. So I think proof is in the pudding this season, which it's. Guys, it's the Wild West. We have no idea what's going to happen this season. No inside info, no context, no problem. But what you have to do is have proof of concept. If you don't, this season could get ugly, and it could get ugly quick. Because Castellanos is sort of the guy that if it doesn't work, it's probably over for Norvell.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I'm going to put a comment up here real quick. Cody Johnson says, my biggest fear is if they lose to Bama, they are going to shut down like they did.
Totally different
Uh,
situation.
I'm worried we lose to Kent State. I'm so shell shocked from last year. I mean, we were all shell shocked to a degree. I think one of the things that the staff focused on was trying to redefine this roster with a bunch of people that are not quitters.
Yeah.
And it remains to be seen whether they were able to successfully do that. But I think it was pretty obvious that there were enough people on last year's roster that did not have the dog in them, that no matter what the score was, they were going to continue fighting to the end. There was too many guys that were willing to, check out,
Yeah.
if things weren't going their way. I also want to put another,
Well, hold on. I want to with that comment.
yeah, go ahead.
So the mentality of those two games can't be more different. You're going in. You're Florida State last year. You're going in after an undefeated season. Everyone was picking Florida State to win that game. Florida State players had to go into that game thinking we're Florida State. We're gonna beat Georgia Tech. And then the next game going, we're definitely gonna. Well, that was a one off, the crazy thing. We're gonna beat Boston College. But when that didn't happen, it goes off the rails. In this situation, the players that have joined this Florida State team, they're not coming after an undefeated season. They're coming off a 2-10 season, and they're saying Alabama is top tier college football. I mean, they are Alabama. So if you lose to Alabama, you're not like, oh my God, what an upset. We were really thinking that we would just blow them off the court, right?
We're going to
So
be underdogs for sure.
it's a whole different mentality. I don't see those two games being similar, and the mentality going into them being similar. And the guys that said yes in this offseason said yes to come work their way out of a 2-10 season. The other guys that came in the prior season came to essentially revel in the undefeated continuation.
Yeah.
And I think there's differences in that mentality.
Yeah, it remains to be seen, and I, I have to go into it thinking that the mentality is going to be very much different in terms of there's going to work and work and work, and there's not going to be a woe is me kind of thing. And if not, then we'll be looking for a new coach, and no one wants to go through that again. I want to put another comment up here from Cody Johnson. We need to overpay for a 5-star kid get a gem of the class. I disagree. Um, I think if you overpay just for the publicity of it all, you run the risk of poisoning the locker room. Remember that that these guys are teammates, yes, but there's also there's competition within the ranks as well, and there should be. But I think the last thing you want to do is bring in someone that's not done anything and pay them, 3-year all conference starter money. That is asking for that's basically saying if we don't hit on this to the nth degree, we are basically screwing our team and screwing the morale.
Yeah.
So I don't think they can take that kind of risk.
Well, Vince, you also, in that same attitude, what would you rather have, Vince, right now? Money wise, let's say you have $5 million. Congratulations.
Oh, okay. I'll take
Would
it.
you rather have 3 or 4 4-stars or one overpaid 5-star?
Well, I'm going to use that money effectively to build the best team that I can build. Because there are very few people that come around, Ryan, as we all know, that are generational talents that can will an entire team to a championship.
I do want to point
Very
out,
few.
this is the last thing I'll say just with Cody in mind, is that, the comment about, hey, it's worked out and he picked out specific teams in which it's worked out for by doing that.
Sure.
I can promise you, there are more teams where that didn't work out, where they went in on a player more than they
Sure.
should have, and he was an absolute they were an absolute bust on those teams, or at least a contributor, but nothing to. So you can find players in which teams gambled on and got lucky, just like we did with Keon Coleman, right?
Hmm.
But then you gamble again, and we get DJU. Similar
Yeah.
gambles. The
Yeah.
argument's the same. Hey, let's bring in a guy who has proven college experience. But it works out differently. So the honest answer
Hey,
is you don't know how it will work out when they come on the team.
it's all about budgeting,
Hmm.
Ryan.
You got debt.
When I was planning this cruise, I had a certain amount of money that I could spend, and I had to spend that in a way that heightened my enjoyment of the cruise, but didn't bankrupt me. Right. So Did I get the specialty dining, the all-you-can-eat specialty dining? No, I
Well, you
didn't
got
choose
two.
that.
Yeah.
I got the beverage package instead and spent my money in that area. So it's the same kind of thing. There are not unlimited funds to do this, and as this actually was just in the news just the other day that it's been the board of governors passed that the schools can now allocate $22.5 million from I forget what the budgetary bucket is, but to be able to pay students or to pay the athletes. So, but it's not unlimited. Um, you know, Ryan, you're a booster. I'm a booster. We're given to NIL. We're given to the Battles End. We're given. Everybody's giving, but eventually the wallet has the moths flying out of it. So you can only you
Yeah.
have to build your team the best that you can with the dollars that you have.
To finish up our roster discussion before we get into some of the board of trustees news as well as some college football and general news, I do want to say, Vince, did you see the video of Michael Pettis, Squirrel White, and Deuce Robinson looking like they are full ghosts
Yeah,
for the fall camp? That is good news, in my opinion, because we have been seemingly cursed headed into fall camp, so much so where we would have in the last few years like third string guys getting starting reps in fall camp because of guys that couldn't play maybe till week 2, and then they're not
hmm
even up to full speed, and it's nice to see those guys that are going to be like main contributors on the team actually looking healthy.
yeah. It's exciting to see. It's exciting to know that the people that are coming onto the team that we had excitement about when we first heard that they were coming are going to be full go. Because how many times in the past, Ryan, have we had all this excitement about someone brand new, and then fall camp hits and it's like, oh, they're in a boot,
They got a knee.
or they got a knee or whatever. And uh, Cody Johnson, I'll say one last thing about this. Same guy still leading the guy who has more losing seasons than winning. I don't disagree with you.
We
You
can't
got to
disagree with
understand.
you.
You
Yeah, of
you got to understand where I'm coming from with this. This season is make or break, in my opinion.
course. Yeah.
But it's not like he wasn't dealt a pretty bad hand to begin with. Last year was he going to own last year in a big way, and it's going to be the only way he can come back from that is by stringing a bunch of really successful seasons together, starting with this season.
Yeah, I think season 1 is you know,
It's a
uh,
wash.
yeah, a wash. There was tons of teams that were uber talented that were playoff contenders the next year that only played a few games and they lost a bunch. It was just a weird year for college football. I think for any team in college football in 2020, that year is a wash. And so really you have I will give you a disappointing second year, but we did see improvements in the offense and effort. And then we have 10-win season followed by undefeated. Now, take just for what it's worth, look in the last 5 years of college football and look at how many undefeated teams there have been in the regular season.
Yeah,
You can't discount that, just like we can't undercount the 2-10 season.
for sure.
That's why so many pundits and analysts are so torn and confused as to what this year will be. As an example, this week, David Cobb from CBS Sports said Florida State will likely finish between 6 and 9 wins.
Yeah,
Well, that's a great hedge on your bet, Mister David Cobb.
but he's
Yes,
not wrong.
yeah, exactly. We have no idea.
But he's not wrong. And so many of the pundits, which I don't consider myself,
Even Paul
right?
Farmon said a mystery team. It's a mystery
We
this year.
we are we are basically in an era now where the wild swings in success from season to season are more apt to happen. And unfortunately, the team that we root for is the poster child of that right now. Um, and so that's unfortunate. And but we're going to wear it, just like we were the poster child for, uh, what's the guy that just won the Heisman? I can even forget his name right now. Um, the two sport guy from Colorado.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't
sure.
remember. Travis Hunter. Travis
Travis
Hunter.
Hunter.
We had to wear that for a while, but that's the bane of rooting for a team that makes headlines, whether it's good or bad. It's the when you root for this logo, you are going to wear things when they don't go your way.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll take that because when it's good, it's real good.
Yeah. Let's speed up a little bit, Vince, because I want to get to some of the other
Yeah.
topics. Let's talk Board of Trustees meeting. Board of Trustees signed off on a near 3 billion operating budget. No, sorry, not three. Let me restate that. 3 what was the help me out? Do you have the number in front of you? $485 million for capital projects, including football ops facility, Legacy Hall, Doe Campbell upgrades, and new health center, and then separately, from that, but related, the Board of Governors approved using up to $22 million from housing, dining, and other auxiliary funds to cover the new NCAA mandated $21 million annual revenue sharing payout through
Right.
2028.
Right.
So all that means is that we're having, again, money doesn't grow on trees. The wallet becomes empty really quick, especially when you're going on cruises with Vince, where we knew unless you're an oil school, it's going to come at the cost of other things that from the university because it has to, because where else is it going to come from unless you manifest new donors that didn't exist before. So unless Spanx is going to give us our entire football operating budget and our NIL money, which maybe someday, yeah, it's got to take away from somewhere.
Yeah. Everybody does what they can do, and I'm not the type of person that's going to be on social media or on here saying, you should give more. Everybody kind of does what they can. And if they can't, that's okay too. You're still allowed to be a fan. I mean, it's ridiculous to all these people that say things like, well, if you're not giving any money, you're not a real fan. I mean, people can be fans in whatever way they want to be a fan. But we also cannot, look at it later, if we're not spending top dollar for people and complain about it. Money is not it's not an infinite resource that we have, all the more reason for all the litigation to happen. um, all of that, people talked about it at the time about Florida State's just a spoiled child and they should just live with what they have, and they signed off on this deal to be in this conference, they should just deal with it. No, Florida State knew years and years and years ago, as did Clemson, that this was coming. And the fact that other schools were willing or are still willing to just play in the you know at an elementary school, Ryan, there's usually a couple different playgrounds. There's the kindergarten playground where all the little ones kind of go, and there's
Mm,
maybe the little monkey bars and everything. And then there's kind of an intermediate playground where
that's where I hang
once
out. Yeah.
you that's where you go. And then there's the kids that want to really dominate, and you got the big dome where many people broke their arms, and all these other things. Florida State wants to play in the big playground. And in order to do that, you got to have the big time money. Um, so, this 22.5 million that they're able to allocate from other budgetary places to put is going to help in that until we get to a point, or as we get to a point that we are making more revenue that our logo and our viewership commands. And we're going to get there.
Yeah, and it's got to come from somewhere. Now, I'm sure there will be somewhere internally at Florida State. I guarantee it because um, I having friends that have worked at FSU in the non-football types of positions. many of them will say it has frustrated them from a focus on the all-encompassing sports instead of the actual institution. But the reality is, football is by far the number one moneymaker for Florida State. So you dump all your eggs in that basket, pissing off the occasional academia expert. I have two friends that have worked at Florida State. One in Thrasher's office as his personal assistant before he retired, which was
R.I.P.
interesting. Yeah, and then one who's in case management. So both of them have said like, yeah, we both love football, we encourage it and everything, but it does things get sacrificed all the time, budgetary reasons to fund the almighty god of football. But return on investment, baby. If you want to play in the big leagues, if you want to move to the SEC and Big Ten, we got to be investing as if we're already there.
Yeah. They say this all the time. The athletic department is the front porch of the university, right? That's what the media sees the most. That's what drives um, uh, applications, especially in the South. The better your athletics are, the higher your applicant numbers go up. And Florida State has parlayed Bobby Bowden's dynasty and his legacy into catapulting this university to be on the precipice of AAU, right? Once, if and when that happens, and I do believe that's going to happen, what you just talked about won't be as much of a problem anymore because whenever you
Investment
talk
wise,
to
yeah.
yeah, because when you talk to people that are, alum of Big Ten schools, what they'll tell you all the time is that athletics budgets are dwarfed by research budgets and research funding. And when that happens, when Florida State gets to that point, and I am a full believer that we are going to get to that point, and I do believe still it's going to be the Big Ten, um, that you won't have to sacrifice as much. But right now, we are in a sacrificial time, both as a university, as a fan. I'm in a sacrificial time. I'm sacrificing my emotion and some of my wallet, to go to try to get this university, this program, not just the athletics, but the Chiefs too,
Yeah.
the marching Chiefs, to where they need to go. And the more people that jump on that bandwagon, the better. And to a point that maybe at some point, um, the train can kind of run itself, and you won't need as much grassroots stuff going to keep the engine running.
Speaking of grassroots, we have a ton of people in the chat.
Beautiful,
We have
love it.
four
Shout them
minutes.
out.
We have 4 minutes left in the goal for tonight for 5 super chats or 21, maybe $25 super chat. So as I go down and shout you out, I'm going to shake you
Consider,
down and ask why.
consider.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I
Ryan,
want to go shout out
we
our
are.
fans.
Yeah, you should. And we are talking about money a lot, and it goes to the university. And if you have the means to support this show, it really goes to just making sure Ryan and I can continue doing it. They're not a yacht outside. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Well, let's shout out the people in the chat. Cody Johnson. We've already been talking to Cody Johnson. Appreciate you watching. Al Woody, Brett Taylor, as always. Gary West, R. Wilmer, of course, always in the chat. Plenty of other people watching. We have a good amount of live streamers tonight, but I just want to shout out those people who've been very active in the chat. And if any of you or anyone watching at home wants to give, that's fine. If you don't, the timer will run out. Vince and I will. Vince, I will give
Disintegrate.
you. I'll give you $25 next time I see you, and we'll go from there. But I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys all watching. Now, Vince, you kind of teased it at the beginning. Why don't you go into a little bit about the kind of the playoff discussion?
Well, we may go over a little bit on time here, Ryan, but about 3 months ago, people were talking all this noise about the 4-4-2-2-1, whatever it is, right? And And the idea behind that is, oh, Cody Johnson, thank you very much, brother. Go
$2. Every
Knowles,
dollar
baby.
helps.
That is an awesome help to us, and we're going to throw it up there. That's really nice. I'm glad you didn't you weren't offended by me disagreeing with you, because we can all disagree and still be intelligent. But thank you so much. But so the idea behind that was the SEC and the Big Ten were the noise was they were both pushing for getting 4 automatic qualifiers into the pageant, right? And then the ACC and the Big 12 would get 2, right? And
Oh,
then, wow, I can't even get thoughts out, Ryan. So this is what we're gonna do from now on. D. Thompson, cheers. Absolutely, brother. I because I'm coming off a little bit of a sickness here. I'm not drinking tonight, but I will partake of some Alka-Seltzer with you, brother.
appreciate you, man. That's awesome. Right at the timeline, Vince. So
That
you know
is
what that
awesome.
means. Well,
That
tell
means, yeah.
people what it
So
means.
yeah, I'm going to do it right now before I forget. We're going to give away 5 memberships to the show right now.
And Vince and
Uh,
I promise you, we'll do a members only show this weekend. Vince, I'm home all weekend. You just
I'll be here.
call your boy, and we'll do it.
We're also going to make the cruise video live too for
The
people
duck,
that
yeah, the making of the duck. I want the making of video too live, Vince.
yeah, we'll do both of them. So there'll be 2 brand new videos available shortly. But I'm going to gift 5 memberships right now. You have to be on YouTube to grab them. So if you're not on YouTube, I'll give you 30 seconds to get on the YouTube, and we will make these available. And being a member basically gets you access to all the members only shows that we do. And those, by the way, those range from Florida State content to nonsense, just random nonsense that Ryan and I get involved in. But those are available. Those will be available to you. So I'm going to gift these right now. Here are 5.
I like them.
See, we got King Spleen getting a brand new membership. We've got John D getting a brand new membership. Oh, we've got the Big Lubbock. The Big Lubbock received a gift membership. The FSU Gnome and Darren Thornton. The Big Lubbock, I think I recognize that name from another show that I watch. This is the same Big Lubbock that is on Peek Around
Vince,
the
we got
Corner. I
another
think he's
tip.
off in there. Oh, Ed D. Wow.
Very kind of you, sir.
Coming in at the wire. We dominated. Super Gold dominated. We really appreciate this, guys.
Vince, I'm going to get to keep my $25 now. Sorry.
Yeah, you are. So anyway, that got scrapped. Back to what I was saying. That whole 4-4-2-2-1-3-1 or whatever it was going to be. The SEC and the Big Ten were talking about strong arming the rest of the conferences into basically saying we deserve more automatic qualifiers to the pageant than you other folks do. But that's kind of gone by the wayside. And then they started talking about, well, let's just do 5 automatic qualifiers, which are the conference championships, and then 11 at-larges,
I prefer
which is what I think the SEC is pushing for at this point.
I personally prefer that.
But there's no way that is going to happen unless the SEC, I think, agrees to go to 9 conference games.
I like that model, Vince, personally, because I like the idea of rewarding conference champions. And then, yes, you can say by giving that amount of at-large bids, that's going to go majority to SEC teams. But I just don't like the artificial qualifier of a certain number of conferences getting in. I prefer conference champions and then whoever's in the top rankings after that. Like, it just seems simpler and it seems less controversial when we get into the picking time.
Yeah, so I agree with you in a lot of ways, Ryan, except if, or only I disagree only because these last 11, spots are going to be dominated by the bias.
Yes, sure. But
And
they are anyways, even if we went with the other system.
Yeah, but you got to remember, and we all talk about this all the time. The the uh, the rankings are skewed. People are already putting rankings together. It's June 19th.
They always have done that. Come on.
And yeah, but if this is going to be based off of preseason rankings, you are already going to see a bias toward the SEC, and they are going to, play their gauntlet, the gauntlet group, and then they're going to cry foul because, Bama lost to Vanderbilt, but then cries that they don't get in the playoff, right? We need to there needs to be some smoothing out of this ranking process. I can't believe how many times I've heard lately, Ryan, how many people want to go back to computer rankings.
Yeah, I think
And
that actually it's funny you should say that. Like, I think this system with the final rankings being completely from like the old BCS computers. Now, who's to say if those and the formula doesn't also still favor strength of schedule, and who sets those strengths of schedules? But I'm talking, I like this better than the other option. Those are the only two options that have been possible because it's simpler to understand and to kind of like look at from a college football fan. You're watching every week. Okay, how many from this league again have to get in? How many from like three and then two and then I like it's like okay, conference championship we got it. Whoever wins is in, and then the rest wherever their rankings fall. It's just simpler.
it is simpler, and all things being equal, I totally agree with you. If you win your league, you get in. Other than that, the next 11 ranked teams get in. But you but we have to be careful about what I mean, we all lived through it. We lived through the snub, which was a complete farce, right? And it was complete nonsense of reasons why they kept Florida State out of that game. That will happen if we don't find some way, because you talk about strength of schedule. The strength of schedule is skewed toward the SEC because of all the pre-ranking BS. Um, Speaking of chat SEC,
I
Ryan,
like that, right? That's smart, right?
I was let down. I was let down today in a big, big way
In a
by
pinch, right? It always
AI.
happens in a pinch.
I have been, I've kind of dove into the AI thing. You know me. If something's going to help me with my job, I'm going to do it. I'm going to use it. But I also use it for the show. Like it helps me organize my thoughts. It helps me give some ideas on a thumbnail. I'm going to put this thumbnail up real quick, Ryan, real quick. We can't talk during. I just want to put it up here though.
That's Vince
That is
scrambling.
that is the worst thumbnail that's ever been generated by a human being in the history of YouTube. And and I'm better than that, Ryan. I am better than that
But the
product
time
that
crunch
you
because you
saw.
got comfy. You got in the comfy couch of saying, "Listen, an hour before the show, no problem. ChatGPT, it's going to have it done in 30 seconds."
Well, I don't even let ChatGPT do the whole thing for me. I usually I tell it my idea and it kind of puts it together and then I make it. But um, but it was fumbling. It couldn't even do it. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I can't fire ChatGPT,
Yeah.
right? I'm not paying him. But that thumbnail, I apologize. All of you people that gave money tonight, I apologize for that thumbnail that you had to endure. I
Mm.
promise that we will be better going forward. We'll continue the climb.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, so in the Apple ecosystem, and this is the way I kind of generate it using ChatGPT, because I never want people to think it's just like 100% whatever it spits out. That's what it's usually not that way.
Yeah.
What it is I'll think of a funny way or a funny scene in my head, like I can see it in my head, and I describe it, and it puts out something with some players, and some graphics, some imagery, and the cool thing with Apple and some other tools as well, but Apple is that you can kind of grab pieces of it out of there as
Yeah.
PNGs,
Hmm.
and then I take a canvas and I kind of rearrange it the
Yeah.
way I like it, and so it makes sense. But
Let me tell you
because
what I
sometimes,
had in mind.
yeah, tell
Let,
us
let me tell you what it was supposed to be.
what happened
It was it was supposed to be. You remember the old Guess Who game?
yeah,
with the little, you're trying to find the right person and it
You're
has these
dating
little flip
yourself, and
things you flip. Yeah. So it was you and I playing the Guess Who game, and they were recruits on there, and we're trying to guess who the quarterback's going to be. And you're holding a tank in your hand, like a toy tank, and you're really, really excited about the toy tank. So, and I'm just kind of like, I'm kind of calmly trying to pick out a quarterback from the Guess Who game, right? That's what I wanted it to be. And the end result is what I just showed up there on the screen, which is, let's just say it's less than that.
it looks
Um,
like you created a free account on Photo Bucket in the mid 2000s
right.
and used the
Let me.
draw tool to etch out the outline of the player's head,
It's
and then
Mario Paint.
yeah, but it's fantastic. I think it's endearing. You know,
Yeah. I promise to be better, people. I
yeah, struggle.
promise.
Hey, you could have used the sick excuse. Be like, guys, the flu got me, and I just wasn't myself.
Yeah, the over reliance on technology and then me not feeling too well caught up to me today. But I
Vince,
want to thank everybody in the chat, all of you that got a membership tonight. Thank you so much, and I will call them out again: King Spleen, John D,
Yep,
the Big Lubbock, FSU Gnome, Darren Thornton. Enjoy your membership for a month. If you want to continue on, we encourage that if you'd
yep.
like to after your month. Ed D, thank you so much. D Thompson, thank you so much. Cody Johnson, thank you so much.
Vince, this is exact situation has happened to me only at work, where I was like putting off creating kind of an executive summary, a recruiting report for my bosses, and no problem usually. And then it was during the big, while you were on the ship, there was a big like server outage, like a lot of things were going haywire. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, it was the day we did the show, and me and Doug were actually worried if we were going to be able to do the show. Um, but that day, I went to generate, and it just kept saying like time out, and I'm like, oh no. And that, Vince, is the genesis of let me download Copilot, I guess.
Yeah,
It saved me, and I kind of had appreciation. I said, hey, I'm going to try you out. I'm going to give you a taste.
yeah. Well, good. We'll see. I'm going to be a little more prepared next week, just in case the technology gods decide to frown on me again next week.
Mm,
Thank you, Captain John Black, for sponsoring us as usual. And I look forward to seeing you soon, John.
absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, screw ESPN eternally. We have no inside info. We have no contacts, no problem. But we do have amazing thumbnails.
Sometimes. And remember, folks, in the world of college football, marching bands are part and parcel to the whole pageantry of it all. We're going to send Chiefs all the damn time.
Hey, watch the College Football 26 gameplay overview that drops tomorrow, and go Knowles.
Go Knowles.